welcome to another Guild Ball Informer video. I'm bringing you something you've all been asking for today. It's Meet the Union Part 2. So as you may have seen about 6 months ago now, a long time ago, we made Meet the Union Part 1. Jay and I did. It's a bit of a blast of the past because that was actually me featuring as a guest on the Guild Ball Informer channel before I was co-host with Jay. So now I'm returning with part 2 as a co-host, so it's pretty exciting times for me. Unfortunately Jay cannot be with us today, so you're just stuck with me, so we'll see how that goes. We covered the big guys, most of the big guys, the captain and the mascot in the previous one, so if you haven't seen that, go back and check it out. Meet the Union Part 1, we covered Blackheart Coin, Avarice and Greed, Fangtooth, we also covered Rage. Now, we purposefully left the second half undone at that point in time because there was a pending errata coming out, which has now obviously been released. So those players that we didn't cover had some changes to them, so we thought it'd be better not to cover them in the first part of the show. There are 2, Fangtooth and Avarice, that also did have a slight change, so I'll discuss those at the end of this episode, just to tell you what the changes were for those. But without further ado, we will crack on, and I'll come back with my models and a brief chat through each of them and how I found them, their pros and cons, and maybe a bit of fluff if there is any. So catch you in a sec. So first up, guys, we've got Gutter. Everybody seems to have horror stories about Gutter, so if you've not played against her yet, you may be in for a surprise. She has been changed slightly during the errata, so I will go through most of you, well, all of you that will have her Season 1 card won't have the errata changes on it, so you can get a copy of the new cards on the Guild Ball website if you want to download those. A bit of fluff about Gutter then. She apparently was a princess at one point out in Iskirad. But as part of Blackheart's previous life when he was a pirate, he had a raid where he took her for ransom, and apparently he tried to ransom her off back to where she came from, and nobody was interested. The northern nobles are even more ruthless than he is, and they weren't willing to pay anything for her, so she stayed with Blackheart. Now the strange thing is that over time she's actually seems to have fallen in love with Blackheart, so she has a bit of a thing for Blackheart, and now they're a bit of a gruesome twosome, and Blackheart uses this to his advantage and gets her to do everything that he wants. And when he left piracy and moved into Guild Ball, she was the only member of his crew that he took with him, so there is a bond there between the two, and yeah, so that's the fluff behind Gutter. We'll move on to her stats and her cards. So we'll go along the stat line. Her move is 6'8", so she's quite mobile. Attack 5, which is good. Kick 3'6", so she's actually not too bad at football if she wants to. Defense 4+, armor 1, and influence 2/4. So she gets 2 at the start of the turn for the team, and she can be allocated up to 4. She has the selected trait, as all Union do, and she can play for the Brewers, the Butchers, Engineers and the Fishermen. This model can play for any of those teams. I've seen her used actually in all 4 teams. She's such a good model that she does seem to get a lot of table time and a lot of love from everybody, not just Union players. So she can offer something quite unique to a lot of those teams. As we'll move on to her abilities, she's quite good at board control and moving people around, which some of those teams don't have access to. So we'll move on to her second character trait, Life Drinker. When this model damages 1 or more enemy models, it may recover 1 HP. So this was subject to the errata. It used to be 2 HP, it's now 1 HP. I think healing is something that's very controlled in Guild Ball with the Come On Mate and healing models. Hemlock has a little heal, but it's only 2 damage, so Gutter was seen to be healing quite a lot if she was healing 2 HP every time she hit someone. During her turn she can go from nearly dead all the way back up to full wounds, so they've limited that a little bit, which I think is is needed. She also has anatomical precision, so during an attack from this model, enemy models suffer -1 armour. So although she's TAC 5, she is ignoring 1 point of armour, which effectively takes her to TAC 6. She's very useful against teams like Masons that have a lot of armour. And she has 14 hitboxes, so kind of middle of the road. She's not on the bottom end of the HP scale, and with defense 4 armor 1, she is actually not too bad. She's not too squishy. Like we've seen already from a lot of the other Union models, she has a 2-inch melee, so she's another model that Union have access to with a big reach, and 2-inch melee for me in the game at the moment is a huge draw. We'll move on to her playbook. So she has 5 columns, which matches her TAC. The first column is a momentous 1 damage, so that's awesome. It's momentous, so that tends to be what you do with Gutter anyway, doing a lot of damage, so getting momentum for it as well is a bonus. Her second column is a 1-inch push. I don't really use that very often. It's non-momentous. It has come in handy a couple of times on a counter-attack when somebody's loaded up with influence and they're trying to hit you. If you counter-attack and they only have a 1-inch melee and aren't base to base, you can push them 1 inch away from you, so they then waste the rest of their influence. But again, it's quite situational. Her third column she can tackle non-momentously, or she can do 2 momentous damage. Her fourth column she can knock you down non-momentously, or she can trigger her 1 Guild Ball character play, which is Scything Blow, which we'll come on to in a minute. And her fifth column is her 2 Guild Balls, which is Chain Grab, which also is momentous. So we'll move on to those 2 character plays. The 2 Guild Ball one, or it costs 1 influence, is Chain Grab. So target enemy model suffers a 4-inch push directly towards this model. Again, if you look at your card, it will also say and 1 damage, but that has been errated and they've taken the damage off the Chain Grab. This is to bring her back again in line with other models. She was doing pretty well in teams like the Engineers and the Butchers when she was doing additional damage on that Chain Grab. For the Engineers, they have the range when they do damage within a range of ballista from a ranged attack from a character play, they gain momentum, so Gutter was gaining momentum from a Chain Grab, which I don't think was intended. And also in teams like the Butchers, with Ox's aura and his legendary up, she could effectively be doing 3 damage from a Chain Grab, so it was just a little bit too good, so they've reduced that, which I think is great. The intention of Chain Grab, for me anyway, is to reposition enemy models out of activation, so it's not really there for the damage, and I never really used it for that, so it's not really affected my game too much with her, and she still is a very useful member of the team. And then her last character play is Scything Blow, so this gives people nightmares and I love it. All models within this model's melee zone, so 2 inches, suffer 3 damage. Now be wary, it says all models, so it does affect your own models, so you need to be very careful with positioning when you're trying to set up a Scything Blow, because any of your own models, barring Rage, because he's a Maverick, will be affected by this massive chain swing of Scything Blow. So they suffer 3 damage. Now you can make that 4 if you tool her up with Rage, and you can also give, as we've discussed, where you can give her extra tack from people like Avarice and Greed singling a model out, or from Blackheart's Commanding Aura. So Commanding Aura will give her +1 tack, but just be careful, it doesn't give her +1 damage, because that is only for playbook damage results, and Scything Blow is a character play. So the +1 damage from Commanding Aura doesn't apply on the Scything Blow. It is momentous as well, and it is only on 4 hits at the moment. So TAC 5 on 4 hits with anatomical precision means that if you can get her in the right position, she can fairly reliably get off multiple Scything Blows in one turn. She also can be allocated 4 influence, so she can do it 4 times as standard. If you get coin to Bag of Coffers her, she can get 5 influence, so she can effectively be doing 3 lots or 4 lots if she's tooled up of damage 5 times. So if you add all that up, that's a hell of a lot of damage, and it can be on multiple targets. So as you can tell, I really love Gutter. She does get in nearly every team, every build that I have Union wise, apart from when I'm playing Midas, because him stealing Sliding blow is insane. But so that's Gutter. She's a regular in my team. I absolutely love her. So try her out if you haven't, and tell me what you think in the comments. Next up, I think we'll have a look at Hemlock. Here we now have Hemlock. So another model that's been affected by the errata. I'll discuss that when we get to it. She is a bit of a druid actually. So according to the fluff, she's a bit of a religious druid. She doesn't really care about anybody. She doesn't care about communities or any of the states or the nations or any customs or anything. She's a bit of a lone wolf. She doesn't trouble herself with the new philosophy of secular thought or mankind's new empirical science. The only position that she has ever expressed any opinion on is her spiteful disrespect for the institution of the Solthesian faith. So she looks back at religion. She's got let me just read this. Hemlock pays fealty to ancient and primordial divinities, those that the increasingly cosmopolitan cities of the Empire of the Free Cities have largely forgotten, those with shrines overgrown by weeds, monoliths toppled and smashed from decades of neglect, their names long since passed from memory. So she's a bit of a hermit and an outcast. So again, she fits in with a mercenary style for the Union, and I can see the draw for Blackheart. She doesn't have any ties really, and she infiltrates lots of guilds and indulging in their games against each other. So she's under no illusion that she might ever hope to destroy the powerful institutions herself, but she doesn't have that motive anyway. She only really thinks about herself. So let's go on to her stat card. She's moved 6'8", so same as Gutter and other members of Union. She's fairly fast. She only has attack 3, so straight away that jumps out at me to say that she isn't really going to want to be fighting people and hitting people with attack 3. She's kick 3-6, so again pretty good. And another model in the Union that can play football if needed. On your stat card it will say defense 6+. She's actually defense 5 now after the errata. I think the defense 6 was just making her a bit of a tank, and it was meaning that people were playing her a lot more aggressively than the designers intended. She is meant to be more of a support piece, and she was acting kind of as a striker, and I hold my hands up, I was doing it. She was really, really good at keeping the ball and scoring for my Union team. So I think that's quite a good change. She has no armour, it's a 5 plus defence, no armour, and influence is 2-4. So she can take up to 4 influence. She's selective like everybody, and she can play for alchemists, brewers, fishermen, and the hunters. So a model that can play for the new hunters coming out at Salou in April. So it might be a little nod to what we're to expect from the hunters. I've seen her not so much in a brewers or fisherman team. I have seen her, but mainly alchemists for her blind. We'll come on to that character play in a bit, but calculus also has that, so it's quite good having 2 times. And she's also got the ranged AoEs, which we'll come on to, which synergizes quite well with the alchemists, with giving out poison and such like. She has magical brew. Now this is something that I often forget with Hemlock, so try and remember it. Once per turn, during this model's activation, it can remove all conditions currently on it. This is brilliant. This is basically a free momentum for her. If anybody knocks her down or puts poison or bleeding on her, or burning, once per turn, once per her activation, she can clear all that. So even if somebody knocks you down and you start your activation, you don't have to spend the momentum, you can just take it off. She also gains, as part of the errata, an additional character trait called Slippery. Now this is kind of to account for the fact they've reduced her defence to 5. Slippery is +1 defence for parting blows, so when she's leaving somebody's melee and takes a parting blow, she actually goes up to defence 6 to make her a bit more resilient. I think it's quite a nice add-in. It just takes her back to a 6 at some parts of the game. She only has 10 hitboxes, so if you can actually gang up on her, take a defence down somehow and start hitting her, she goes down quite quickly. Again, more and makes her more in line with the support model you want behind your front lines during a turn, and she doesn't really want to be up in people's faces. Now we'll flip over. She also has a 2-inch melee, which if you're looking on your card it says 2-inch. That has been changed in the errata, so she only has a 1-inch melee now, I believe. She has 3 columns on a playbook which matches attack, so she has a 1 damage, non-momentous on 1 hit, and a momentous tackle. So she is quite good as a defensive player trying to tackle the ball back. Again, it was another reason why she was used, I think, incorrectly as a, well, not incorrectly, but unintended as a striker when she was defence 6, because she had a momentous tackle on 1, so she was really good being right up there near your opponent's back line trying to tackle the ball and scoring. But this is quite good defensively to be able to tackle the ball and pass it around. She has on 2 hits a 1-inch dodge, and on 3 hits a 2-inch dodge, both of which are momentous. So she's quite good at dodging around, fits in with slippery, and just trying to get out of melee. Quite good for counter attack if somebody comes in to try and attack you. If you can get a dodge to dodge away before they can lay the hurt down, it's quite useful. And all of them which are momentous, so there's a momentous result on each column. If she gets to charge, or you manage to single out someone she's hitting, she can wrap quite easily, so you can get quite a lot of dodges with her if you need to. Especially last chance saloon, if she's picked the ball up and she's running in to try and score, if she charges somebody, if you can get sort of 5 hits, you can do a 3-inch momentous dodge, or a 2-inch and a 1-inch, taking it to 3 inches, which adds you 2 momentum, which you can use to bonus time and shoot. So she's quite good at that. So we'll go into her character plays. I mentioned one earlier, but Blind costs 1, and it's a 6-inch range with a 3-inch AoE. So you drop this AoE on your enemy, and all models hit suffer -4 attack and -4/-4 move. You can only use the character play once per turn, but it is that brutal that I'm not surprised. If you can hit multiple enemy models with this, it really does limit what they can do. Especially good against the hitting teams like Butchers and Brewers. If you can drop this Blind on Ox and Boar, for example, at -4 attack, and also -4/-4 move, they're not the fastest guilds anyway, so that really does limit what they can do for the turn. It kind of gives you a free pass for the turn that you're not going to get models taken out. So brilliant, I really like Blind. The only downside is that it's only 1 influence to cast, so it is touch and go sometimes, especially when you're trying to hit models with 4 or 5 defense. I usually bonus time the attempt. You would have to roll for every target though, so you'd have to bonus time every single dice roll if you're hitting more than 1 person. It does feed in quite well with Coin and Bag of Coffers though. If he gives Hemlock an extra influence and a free use of bonus time, she can use that for free when she's casting Blind to add an extra dice, so that's quite good. Her second character play is Smelling Salts. This looks amazing, and I'm surprised I don't use it more, but I can't really remember a time when I've actually done it. It's basically friendly models recover 2 HP and remove all conditions currently on them, and you can use it once per turn like Blind. It has a 4-inch range and a 3-inch AoE. So in theory, this is brilliant. If you're 4 inches away from any friendly model, if they've taken some damage or they're suffering conditions, you can drop this on them. You don't have to roll, it just goes off for free. It goes off without rolling. It costs you 2 influence, but it's healing everyone it hits 2 HP. And again, it says friendly models, so you could actually do it on Hemlock herself. She could do it to herself. But in game, I don't tend to use it very often. I do overlook it. It does seem a lot to do for 2 influence, especially when the Union generate quite a lot of. I find they generate quite a lot of momentum, so I'm using that momentum to heal models. This seems like 2 influence I could better use doing something else. But for especially against teams like Brewers that are knocking you down a lot, I think it'd be quite useful to stand people up to drop this area on. So let me know again in the comments if you've had good use out of it, and tell me that I'm an idiot for not using it more. And the last character play is Nauseous Blast. So again, Calculus has this in the Alchemists. All models hit suffer 2 damage, and the poison condition. Models entering or ending their activation in this ongoing AoE suffer poison, and you can use it once per turn. So this is something that stays on the board for the turn. You can drop it either on models or in front of them to limit their movement, or to limit where they want to go. It costs you 2 influence, and it's an 8-inch range, so it's quite a long range. You can hit people if you position the AoE within 8 inches. You can actually, because it's a 3-inch AoE, you can get things slightly further than 8 inches. And again, you can hit multiple models at once. So if you can manage to drop this on Oxboar, Princess, for example, you get all 3 of them with poison. Late turn, it's pretty good because they don't have time to then clear that condition, and they take the poison damage as well as the 2 damage. Again, worth thinking about, if you don't have anything to do with rage, if he's not in range, if you tool Hemlock up, she can drop this Nauseous Blast and it does 3 damage instead of 2. Again, worth thinking about. So that's Hemlock for you. A good defensive midfielder, quite hard to hit. If you can get hold of her, she does die quite easily, so the key is to try and keep her out of trouble. With her long range of Blind and Nauseous Blast, and you can hang her up behind someone like Avarice and Greed or Blackheart, you can protect her fairly well, but she's another good one. Another good one in the Union. So we'll move on. I think we'll do another female. We'll do Decimate next. Next up is Decimate, sometimes confused for a man because of the artwork where she has a moustache. I think that was just an earlier iteration of her, but she is a female. She is classed as a winger in the game, so that might indicate that she's quite fast, she's quite squishy, and she wants to be on the outskirts, skirting around the action. We'll go through her stats and traits in a second. The fluff behind her, she is another princess, or used to be a princess, so like Gutter. She has a royal background, but she has had a cursed life because she has the misfortune of being the 4th in line in her family, so she wasn't ever really pampered by her parents or thought about. She was quite disinterested at court, so because of this she ran away looking for a more exciting life in the underclass of the cities. So she's been hanging around gangs because she's a bit of an opportunist. She actually rose up through the ranks. It says in the fluff that she was quite useful for the Brewers Guild. The Brewers Guild House of Strakislav went to war against the cursed Guild House and successfully wrested control of the guild for themselves. And they consolidated power and purged the Guild Ball team. If you've read the fluff for the Brewers, they all have lots of infighting, and each of the different Brewer clans have their own Guild Ball team, and whoever is in power of the guild at the time has their own sort of Guild Ball team. So there's a lot of movement of players when a new clan takes over power. So Decimate, used to be called Volstov, so changed names to Decimate the Duelist when starting to play Guild Ball, and then carried on, and Decimate then joined the Union. She became a free agent for the Union, so she has quite a history of Guild Ball, so she's quite a good player there. So we'll go on to the stats. We have movement 6-9, so actually a bit faster than some of the other players with a 9-inch charge. Tack 6, so quite big. That's actually captain tack, so she's got quite a lot of potential when hitting things. Kick 3-6, so standard. Defense 4, armor 1, seems to kind of be the average. Defense 4, armor 1. Again, influence 2-4, so can take up to 4 or 5 with bag of coffers. Selective, so can play for the alchemists, butchers, engineers, and masons. Not seen Decimate too much in the engineers or the butchers or the alchemists really. Saw her quite a lot in the masons pre-errata, because again Decimate is another model that was affected by the errata. She started off with a 2-inch melee. She now has a 1-inch melee, so just reducing that range. As you'll see from her playbook, this was kind of needed because she's quite good at dodging and stuff around anyway. but because there's not too many 2-inch melee models, she was effectively standing 2 inches away from stuff that couldn't hit her back and just pummeling them to the ground. So 1 inch makes her brings her power level down slightly. So she has also anatomical precision like Gutter, so she ignores 1 point of armour, again making her really handy against teams like Masons, but effectively giving her a pseudo tax 7, so she's pretty cool. She has 14 hitboxes, again like Gutter, there's quite a lot of similarities. So defense 4, armor 1, 14 hitboxes, doesn't go down particularly easily. So we'll flip the card over back onto playbook. So momentous, 1 damage and a 1 inch dodge on 1 hit. So this is really good for charging in, doing a little bit of damage and then dodging out again. 2 hits, you've got a 2 inch dodge that's non-momentous, or 2 damage and a 1 inch dodge. She tackles momentously on 3, so a good option for trying to steal the ball and going on for a goal scoring shot. A momentous tackle and a 2 inch dodge on 4, which is brilliant. If you can manage to catch somebody within about 8 inches of their own goal with the ball, if you charge them with Decimate, tackle them and get a 2 inch dodge to get back out of their melee and put you within 6 inches of the goal, it's a really nice little trick, well not trick, a nice little play to tackle the ball and get a goal, because you're generating momentum from it as well. So you're getting the movement, you're getting the tackle and you're getting the momentum. On 4 hits as well, you can just do a 2 inch momentous dodge. So if you're not interested in the ball, you can dodge her around to get her to reposition. On 4 hits, 3 damage and 1 inch dodge, that's non-momentous. And on 5 hits, you can do her 2 Guild Ball character play, which is 1000 cuts. Target enemy model suffers -2 damage and -2 defense and 1 damage. We'll come on to that again in a sec when we do the character plays. So as you can see, lots of dodges, lots of mobility and lots of momentum. She does 1 damage on 1 hit and 2 damage on 2 hits, so if you combine that with commanding aura and potentially tooled up, she can put out a hell of a lot of damage just for 1 or 2 hits whilst generating momentum. So a really nice flexible piece, because she can also kick 3-6, so she's quite good at pretty much everything. So I quite like Decimate. So moving on to character plays. The first one is Second Wind. It costs you 2 influence and has a 4 inch range. So target friendly model may make a jog at the end of its activation. You can only use it once per turn. So again, if you put it on yourself, or if she puts it on a friendly model, they can do a jog at the end of their activation. A really good way of moving your models around, getting them into positions that the enemy doesn't think that they'll be able to get into. Really good for setting up for a goal the next turn if you get somebody in range, and really good for moving models that aren't particularly mobile, like Fangtooth or Avarice, and just is insane on models like Mist. If Mist manages to do a sprint and a where they go during his activation, and he also has Second Wind to do another jog at the end, you can move something like 8, 12, 18 inches if it's in cover, then 20 inches in one activation. So really good for repositioning, you know, double bluffing. It's quite good on turn 1 when the enemy is set up opposite Mist, thinking Mist is on the left, and you do all of these movement shenanigans, and by the end of turn 1 Mist is really far on the right of the board. It can really throw things, mix things up for you. So really good. Decimate I love. And the second character play is 1000 Cuts. It does seem quite influence intensive if you're just casting it on its own, because it costs 3 influence, or if you get it off the playbook, it's 6 hits. It's a 6 inch range, so you don't actually have to do it on the model you're hitting. If you're in combat, you can do it to anybody within 6. Target enemy model suffers -2 defense and 1 damage. This is brilliant for singling out an enemy model that you want to die that turn. If you can give them -2 defense, that's before anything like a knockdown to reduce their defense further. So you can do -2 defense and also does 1 damage. It's a really good way to the start of the turn to put the hurt on somebody. If you can imagine even playing someone like Hemlock, if you can charge in and hit somebody near Hemlock that's on the other team, if Hemlock's on the other team, and you can get 1,000 cuts off. You can put it on Hemlock, who's 6 inches away, ready to attack her. She starts with 5+ as base. Taking 2 off that defense makes her a 3+, and with only 10 hitboxes and no armor, she will go down very, very quickly. So 1,000 cuts is great. Does take a lot, and sometimes I'm a bit unsure as to whether with Decimate I should be using Decimate to actually do the damage herself, or whether I use her as a support piece to set up other people like Gutter and Blackheart to go in and finish off a model with 1,000 cuts. So that's Decimate for you. We'll move on to, we'll stick in the trend of females for now. We'll move on to Snakeskin. The next up is Snakeskin. The models here, I really like the model. It's quite hard to attach to the base, being on one tiny foot, but I've managed to wedge her up against a rock. I've also put a snake on the base, just so people can identify her as Snakeskin. I haven't seen her that often. I know one of my locals, Rob Barmfuss, plays Masons, and he uses Snakeskin quite a lot. So I do see her in his teams, but I don't see her too much in actual Union teams. I did start, when I started Union, using her just because she was one of the 6 models I had at the time. So I did use her quite frequently at the start, but we'll move on and I'll tell you what my thoughts are on her now. So there's not really that much in the fluff about her background. She does feature quite heavily in some of the fluff stories, so go and have a read of those if you want to know more about Snakeskin. But she kind of good at infiltrating, quite slippery, quite does lots of dodges and dodgy, and that, I think that goes with the fluff about her as well. So we'll start with her stats. Another move 6'8", so still another fast model, in line with Hemlock and Gutter. She can play, as I've mentioned, for Masons. She can also play for Fishermen and Alchemists, so another option, probably slightly more fighty option for a Fisherman team. Can hand out poison, so quite good for Alchemists, synergizes quite well with Alchemists. So I have seen her used a bit in those 3 teams, but actually not as much in an actual Union lineup. There are so many good options for Union at the moment that she does fall down the pecking order for me when I have a full strength lineup. She has attack 5, so quite good for a winger, winger/striker I see her as. Kick 3/6, defense 4+, no armor, and 2 can allocate 4 influence to her, and she generates 2 for the pool. So just from looking at that, she does seem quite easy to kill. 4 defense 4, armor none, and she only has 12 hitboxes. She's quite fast, quite good at kicking, and a lot of attack. So we'll have a look at her character traits and her playbook and see what she should be doing for the team. So we've mentioned selective. She's also got a character trait Venomous Strike. So I mentioned she synergizes quite well with Alchemists. When damaged by this model, enemy models suffer poison. So when she's damaging stuff in melee, she only does melee. She's got no ranged attacks. So she can get in to fight people and poison them. So I can see this synergizing quite well with people like Catalyst or Venin for the Alchemists. She's charmed male, so we've seen this before on other models across the Guild Ball range. She gets +1 defense against every attack and character play made by a male. So there's quite a lot of men in Guild Ball. I can't remember what the stats were, but it's about 60-70% of men. So most often 70%. Most often you're going to get hit by a man. So that takes her actually up to 5+. So she's in line with Hemlock when hit by a man. She also has Shadow-like, so we've seen this on Blackheart. At the start of her locked activation, she can make a 2-inch dodge. So this is really good, and a lot of enemies forget about this. They try and tie Snakeskin up just by engaging her at the end of the turn, without realising that when she activates, she gets to do a 2-inch dodge to get out of anybody's melee. It's really good for her mobility, and effectively makes her a move of 8-10. Because she has a base 6-8 move, with this Shadow-like, she can go up to sort of 8-10 with that, so it makes her really actually surprisingly mobile. She, flipping over, has a 1-inch melee, so not part of the 2-inch gang, but has quite a lot going on her playbook. So for 1 hit she does 1 damage. It's not momentous, but it is a damage, so if at a push you want to finish models off, she can go in there and do the damage, especially with things like Command and Order up. On 2 hits you can do 2 damage or a momentous tackle. So another option, which is why I like to use her kind of as a striker. When she's on the pitch, she does momentous tackle on 2 hits. She also does a momentous tackle and a 1-inch dodge for 3 hits. So as we mentioned with Decimate, who actually does it on higher hits, but for 3 hits she can tackle someone and gain momentum and get a 1-inch dodge. So really good for a charge on goal when somebody's got the ball that you're charging into. She also triggers her 2 Guild Ball character play off 3 hits, which is momentous, which is Clone. I really like Clone. It's a really good ability. I'm not sure off the top of my head how this has been changed, but it has been changed in the errata. I think it doesn't apply for parting blows. Could be wrong, so please check the errata and don't shout at me if I'm wrong. But this model may ignore the next character play or playbook result against it, then make a 2-inch dodge. So it's a bit like that plot card that allows you to make a dodge after being hit, but this one completely ignores the attack. So this model may ignore the next character play or playbook result against it and make a 2-inch dodge. So really good at getting out of trouble if she is in a precarious situation. Now, all in all, she looks pretty good. She looks like she is a winger, but she looks like she can double as a striker. Got lots of momentum generation, lots of attack, lots of speed. The problem that I have tended to find with her is she's really, really good if you allocate the full 4 influence to her and you actually have something for her to do. If you can go early with her in the turn and get Clone up. I missed her last her character play, which was Nimble. This model gains +1 defense. So she's also got Nimble for 1 influence. She can give herself +1 defense. So that actually takes her, if she puts Nimble up, to 5+ defense. If she's also being hit by a man, that takes her to 6+ defense. And also, if she has Clone up, she ignores the first hit and gets to make a dodge. So as you can see, if you allocate the full influence to her and get her to go early, putting Nimble and Clone up, she can be really difficult to shift, especially if you want to keep hold of the ball, just give her the ball, run her off, and put all these defensive abilities up. The problem I find with her though is it dictates my activation order, because if I don't go with her early, then she does die quite easily with only 4+ defense and no armor. She only has 12 hitboxes, she only has a 1-inch melee, so 2-inch melee models have a field day against her because she can't do anything about it, she can't counterattack, and she is a bit of an influence sink. If you don't give her sort of 4 influence, 3 or 4 influence, she isn't quite as effective, because Clone costs 2, Nimble costs 1, and then you've got nothing else to do anything with. You can't pass it, you can't sprint. So, can be good, but situational, and I think with other players in the team that have as good a kick stat of 3-6, maybe quite not as mobile, but with Gutter and Decimate with the same sort of kick stats, we'll come on to Mist in a bit, she leaves a little bit to be desired for me and doesn't often make my 6. So next we'll move on, sticking with females, I guess we'll move on to Minks. Next up we've got Minks, another female in the Union. She is described as the feral hunter in the fluff, and there isn't much to go on the fluff. There's a nice story in the Union section about her, well, I say a nice story, a good story, about her being chained up, and she's getting tormented. She has lots of nightmares about her captor, and it seems that she is kind of, for Guild Ball, she is just let off the leash in a match to go sort of crazy and do what she wants. So we'll move on to her stats. She is a human and she's unknown and she's a female and she is another winger. So a bit like Snakeskin, she will operate around the edges of the action. She has a move of 7-9 inches, so really fast actually. She can really get about the pitch. She has attack 5, again like Snakeskin. Quite a lot of, you'll notice a lot of attack amongst the Union. quite good in melee. Kick of 2-6, so not as good as most wingers or people that you're wanting to score goals, especially other people you have access to in the Union. Defense 4, armor 1, standard, and influence 2, 2. So you can only allocate her 2 influence, which is a bit unusual. We'll have a look, we'll move on to her character traits, which will shed some light on this. She is selective, so she can play for butchers, hunters, so another model, her and Hemlock, that can play for hunters. So again, might be a bit of a sneaky peek on what sort of things we should expect from the hunters. She can also play for masons and morticians. Don't think I've ever seen her in a morticians lineup. I've seen her quite a bit in masons. I know Oliver Current is a fan because she's quite good. She's quite influence efficient, and with honour being not generating as much influence as some other captains, it's quite a good way for additional influence that you don't have to allocate, that can be spread out to the rest of the team. Obviously not seen him in a hunters team yet because they're not out. And finally, butchers. Again, I've heard stories, but I've not seen much. I think the butchers have access to other models like Shank that are just as good, so I don't see her too much in other teams. She also, next character trait is Furious, so this is the same as Rage. She can charge without spending influence, so this accounts for the fact she can only be allocated up to 2 influence because she gets a charge for free every turn. So if there's somebody in range, she's effectively got 4 influence. She has also damaged target, so this adds to her range. She gets +2 movement on the charge against a model that is damaged, so she's effectively got a charge of 11 inches. With a 1 inch melee, we'll see in a second, so she can hit somebody from 12 inches away and she can charge for free. So she has quite a huge range if she's trying to hit someone that's already damaged, so quite good as a second or third wave of attack once you've sent somebody else in to attack someone. She also has follow-up, so we see this on coin. Haven't really come into play too much for her. After an enemy model performs an advance that takes it out of this model's melee zone, this model may immediately move up to its base move directly towards it, so it can move 7 inches. Minks can move 7 inches back towards somebody that's just left her melee after they've ended their movement. So this actually is quite good, especially against slower models. They think they can disengage from you. You give them a parting blow, they carry on moving, end their movement, and then you suddenly Minks is right back up in their face again, not being out of engagement as they had intended. She has 12 hitboxes, so on the lower side of people, but defense 4, armor 1, and hopefully just being a bit of a glass hammer, staying out of things, charging in, killing something just to finish them off. She shouldn't be multiple brawling with other enemy models. So going on to her playbook, she has momentous 1 damage, so another momentous damage there, which is good on 1 hit. She can tackle non-momentously on 2 hits. On 3 hits she has momentous 2 damage and can trigger her first guild ball. On 4 hits she can trigger her second 2 lots of guild balls, not momentously, and on 5 hits she does 3 damage and a 2-inch dodge, which is momentous. So when you're getting up to 5 hits, she can really put the hurt out and be dodging around as well, in and out of people's melee, which is really good. She has her first character play, which is the 1 guild ball triggered on 3 hits, or you can spend 1 influence to just do it. It's called Mark Target. It has a range of 8 inches. Friendly models who declare a charge against the affected enemy model gain +0/+2 move, and you could only use it once a turn. So she's, as well as having a huge range herself, especially against damage targets, she can actually help make other models have a larger threat range. So she can mark a target, which will give Gutter or Decimate or Blackheart additional movement when they're trying to charge them. So really good for opening up options for attacking people. Her second guild ball is Screeching Banshee. Target enemy model suffers -4/-4 move and 2 damage. So a bit of damage, but the -4/-4 move is really great, especially when you consider the fact that Minks has follow-up. So if anybody's trying to move away, it basically ties them down to Minks for that turn. Also coupled, if you can think, with Hemlock's blind, they would effectively be on, if they're blinded and they've got Screeching Banshee on them, they're at -8 move, so they're not going anywhere for the turn. So very good as a support piece, kind of finishing, well not a support piece, as a second or third wave of attack after your big hitters have gone in. Maybe you just need another 1 or 2 points of damage to finish somebody off. She's really good at that. Surprisingly far she can travel, and being furious, I tend to have a lot of games where you can get stuff out of her by not giving her any influence. She can still be a threat. Stood on one wing waiting for her furious charge and somebody to get damaged or to get into range, and unlike other models in the Union like Snakeskin or Hemlock or Decimate, if you allocate them no influence, you don't get anything out of them in the turn. With Rage and Minks, even if you don't allocate them influence, they can be doing things, so worth thinking about, quite useful in certain situations. So we have one model left to cover before I touch on Fangtooth and Avarice. We have Mist. So Mist is often mistaken for a female, but Mist is a man, so we'll come on to Mist. So we've now got Mist. So the fluff wise, there's some nice story about Mist, and he seems to have a mysterious link with Siren. So he's actually from an unknown origin, so we don't know much about his background, but him and Siren's also an unknown, have some sort of link or history, so it'll be interesting to see how the Season 2 fluff progresses that story, if at all. I'll be interested to get a bit more background on some of these Union players. So on to his stat card. Basically he is the ultimate striker, arguably the best striker in the game, but does very little else. So he is in the team for one thing and one thing only, and that is to score goals. He is suitably well equipped for the job. So we'll go down his stat list. He has a move of 6'8", which is fairly mobile, but as we'll see from other stuff, he has other ways of increasing that. He has attack of 4, kick 3, 8 inches, so got quite a big kick. Defense 5+, armor none, and influence of 2-4. So like most strikers, he is fairly high defense, presumably because he has not too many wounds, and presumably because he's going to be up near the goal scoring, so quite easy to attack and to take out for your opponent. His character traits: he is selective, alchemists, masons and morticians. So I've seen him used early days a lot with morticians because they had a lack of striking options. Now they have bone saw, maybe see him slightly less. He still does seem to feature quite heavily in morticians teams I've seen. He can be used in an Alki Union lineup. I've seen him quite effectively with Flint having Mist and with Vitriol having Vitriol and Mist as striking options for alchemists to make them very, very, very even more scory than they are normally. Also in a Masons team, as I just said then, Flint and Mist make the attacking options very, very good for those two teams. And obviously I've seen him in most Union lineups. He is our main outlet for scoring goals, for out and out goals. So he does get seen quite a bit. He has also been touched by the errata, which we will come on to in a moment. He also has a character trait, Cover of Darkness, so you can see this on other models. Gives increased movement when starting an advance in cover. So he gets benefits +2/+2 move when he's starting his advance, so a jog or a sprint within cover. So quite good early game to try and position him near cover, as well as benefiting from the obvious cover benefit of your opponent losing a dice when trying to hit him. He also gets extra movement. Cover also plays a large part for his next character trait, Skilled Within Shadow. This model gains +2 tack against enemy models benefiting from cover. So he would normally lose a dice like everybody else for attacking someone in cover, but he actually gains 2. So there's a net effect of a +1 dice or attacking someone in cover. So he's normally tack 4, so that makes him tack 5. So opponents need to be wary when playing against a Union side with mist in, or any side with mist in, that if they position somebody within range of the cover, he is getting extra attack. So he gets better access and easier access to wraps when attacking someone in cover. Not quite as bad as Vitriol, who gets +1 damage as well, but good enough. He only has 12 wounds, so again with defense 5, no armour. If you can get hold of him, he does go down fairly easily, but you'd imagine that from a goal scoring striker. Flip the card over, he has a 2-inch melee, so one of the Union models to keep that 2-inch melee. So I quite like that for a striker, gives him a better sort of chance of attacking people with 1-inch melees to get momentous dodges or to get tackles. He has 1 damage, a non-momentous 1 damage on his playbook, and a tackle. Now, if looking at your cards, he will have a momentous tackle. This is where he's been touched by the errata. His tackle is no longer momentous. This was seen as fairly too powerful, because it meant that if you went first activation of a turn with mist, you could effectively charge somebody who had the ball to tackle them, gain the momentum you then needed to score without any other problems, without any other way of having to generate momentum to score. So it just led to a few situations where it got silly that mist could just score first activation of the turn with no problem at all. So they've just made it slightly harder and slightly less powerful, so you can still get the tackle on 1 hit, but it then means you have to try and generate momentum some other way, or maybe just leave him till slightly later in the turn when you've generated momentum from other activations. So still really, really good, but not quite as powerful as he was to start with. He also has a momentous 1-inch dodge on 2 hits, a momentous 1 guild ball on 3 hits, and a momentous 2-inch dodge on 4 hits. So very good when he has the ball. Still taking the momentous tackle doesn't stop him finishing the turn with the ball and being able to then run in and dodge off somebody for the momentum to then shoot. So still really handy striker, and still quite good going early to generate that momentum if needs be. A great threat range. Cover of Darkness gives him, when he starts in cover, gives him an 8-10 jog and charge or sprint. But he also has a character play, a Smoke Bomb, which allows him to, for 1 influence, to drop cover, a 3-inch AoE of cover within 8 inches of himself. The most common use I have for that is at the start of his activation, before he moves, is dropping it on himself to give himself cover, which gives him then that extra 2 inches of movement. It can also be used offensively for dropping it on an opponent who you're about to hit, because it gives you an extra 1 attack, remember, from Skilled Within Shadow. So lots of different options for his Smoke Bomb. You can also, if you're playing him as more a support piece and there's no action with the ball going on, you can drop it on your own models to give them cover for the turn if somebody's about to beat down on them. And his second character play, activated from 3 hits on the playbook or from just spending 1 influence, is Where'd They Go. I love this ability. Grayscales has it, and a few other models, but I really love it for the fact that it's a reposition and not an advance. It's a really good way, especially now we're seeing Season 2 goalkeepers and with Brick floating about sometimes, who get that charge if you end a advance within range of them. This is a reposition, so it doesn't trigger Rushkeeper or Brick's counter charge. So it's a really good way of nipping in when they've tried to set up that ranged or ranged charge to stop you doing things. It's good for Mist to be able to nip in without triggering that, and it also just gives them an extra 4 inches of movement for 1 influence. It's really, really handy. Again, from maybe an early charge, because it's momentous, where they go off the playbook, you can charge into somebody with effectively 8 dice, and then you only need 3 hits to get a momentous Where'd They Go. So that gives you if you start in cover, it could be a 10-inch charge with a 2-inch melee, so you're hitting someone from 12 inches away, and then you get a 4-inch dodge, so effectively you can go sort of 14 inches, which is pretty decent. So that's Mist for you. Again, quite a one-trick pony in the team for one thing, but if he gets you 4 or even 8 VPs in a game, he has definitely paid for himself. He does tend to get quite a lot of influence from me, 4 if I can spare it, 3 or 2 if not, but he does seem to do a lot, even if, like I said, he doesn't do any damage, well, do much damage really, but even if he is just used to generate a bit of momentum, he can do that quite easily. If you just go in and stand in next to somebody late turn, hit them a couple of times, if the ball isn't anywhere within range, just to generate another 2 momentum to make sure, well, to give you more of a chance of going first the following turn. And then now we have covered all of the models within the Union in both episode 1, Meet the Union 1, and then this one. I'll just touch on Fangtooth and Avarice, because they are the 2 other models that have been affected by the errata. So Fangtooth was seen as a bit of a momentum vending machine because he only had 2 defence and 1 armour, so people were not seeing him. He wasn't seeing much table time, especially around where I play, just because he was quite easy to generate momentum off. People were using him as a bit of a punch bag to generate momentum. So what they've done is given him gluttonous mass. So it just basically means that he can ignore the first character play or playbook damage result every turn. So he effectively gets protection from the first attack. A bit like Clone, just without the dodge, and it's always on. So that's really handy. It's made him very, very difficult to deal with 29 hitboxes. He is a monster now, and a very, very good tank for any team he can play for. It's seen a resurgence of him. It's such a beautiful model, so I'm really pleased that they've done something to allow more table time for him. So he's very, very good now. The other model I mentioned, Avarice, so another one of the big guys, he has also gone from being a momentum vending machine to being a bit more viable in teams now. He's gone from defense 2+ to defense 3+. He still has no armor, so still fairly easy to hit, but not quite as easy to generate the wraps and the momentum that he was doing before. He has tough hide as well, so with defense 3, armor none, 20 hitboxes and tough hide, he is another tough cookie to take down. So I do think that both of those 2 have benefited from the errata, and as such are seeing a bit more of table time in tournaments and in casual play. So I think that's had the desired effect. So there we go, that's kind of rounded out the Union for you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this, and please do let me know your views on models, how you use them. If it's any different to me, maybe you can teach me a thing or 2, and we will try and get another meet the team out soon. So please put in the comments what teams you would like to see. There are quite a few up on the GBHL podcast and Meet the Morticians on ours. So have a look through, search the net, and let us know if there's anything missing, and we'll get something out for you. So please comment, share, like, and subscribe. And happy guild balling, guys!